Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last video we had added our player component and we had added the player component into our main scene. Okay, so now in this video we are going to actually create the script and start adding our player mechanics. Okay, so before we are going to create our script, let's just define the input controls. So basically the input actions in terms of Godot. So I'll go ahead and click this project tab and I'll go to the project settings, and over here let's go to the input map. So if like you don't know what is an input map, so basically it is going to we are going to define few actions as in strings, and we are going to define the conditions that when that action is going to be true based on the keyboard input or the mouse input or whatever joystick input that we have. Okay, so let's define the action. So in our particular game we have only two actions: either the player moves to the right or the player moves to the left. So that is what we are going to define. So let's do that. And for the add new action, I'm going to say player move left. Okay, and click on this add button. So our action got added, and there is one more action called player move right. Okay, and go ahead and add that. Now there is one major challenge. See, right now I am using Bluetooth keyboard and mouse in order to have the keyboard and mouse support. So in my particular case, let's see, we will see that if particular action is getting triggered or not with our keyboard. But you may be only be using a mobile. For example, let's say you are developing a game, and if you don't have the keyboard or mouse access and you just have your mobile phone, so don't worry, just so I will show you how we can fix that issue as well. All right, so now we have these two actions. Let's add the conditions that when this action is going to be true. So for the player moved left, let's say that I want to be able to call this action when I press the A button of my keyboard, and yes, it is working. So let's go ahead and select that and press enter. Okay, so I believe the buttons, yeah. Okay, so I had to drag a little bit up, and now I can add this one. And for the player move right, let's go ahead and try to press D, right? So we want to be able to trigger this particular action when I press D on my keyboard. Similarly, I want to use the keyboard arrows as well. So let's go ahead and add a second event. And if I want player to be able to move left when I press the left button onto my keyboard, okay, and let's just add that. And same for this one, for the right, I want to be able to listen to the right button and move our player to the right. All right, perfect. So we have defined our input actions and we have added the conditions for them. Now let's just create the script and try to see if we are getting the response from that actions or not. So what we have to do is basically select our root node, which is this player, and I'm going to click this plus symbol over here, which is basically a shortcut to create the script and add it to our root node. So I'm going to click this folder and let's create a new folder. Let's go ahead and give this a name called scripts. Okay, and for the name of the script I am going to give this a name called player controller. So I feel this name is better for it, and now click create. So now our script has been created and has been added to the root of our node. Perfect. So let's go click on this button in order to enter through the focus mode, since we have a very limited small screen. So let's just utilize this area properly. All right, so now whenever you are creating a script and before writing your logics over there, it's always a good idea to define the intention of that script first. Okay, and it's just not only for you, maybe you are working with a team or someone who else is also going to read out your script. So basically it's going to be helpful for them as well, because just opening by script and reading out that small hints or intentions, they'll get to know that what this script is actually doing and what's its responsibilities. Okay, so in our case, for this particular script called player controller, our script's main responsibility is first to be able to move when a proper input is given. Second, we want to detect collision, like if the whatever collision that is happening, if the player is getting collided with something, emit a signal so that the other nodes can react based on that. So these are the main two responsibilities that we have. So let me write the responsibility. So the first responsibility is going to move player based on input. Okay, and the second responsibility is emit appropriate signal when get in contact with something. Okay, so our script is going to basically serve these two things only, right? All right, so now it is time to just jump in, and first thing that we want to see is whether our actions that we had defined is getting triggered or not. So these actions, so basically we have to listen to these actions every frame, right? Because player can push the button anytime, right? So we have to listen to every frame, so we have to use the process function. Okay, so the process function, in this process function, like every frame, what we have to do, we have to check a condition whether this input is whether this action is true or not. So we can do this by typing if, and we are going to access our input class if input is action pressed. Now I'm going to use is action pressed, and I'm not going to use is action just pressed. So for those of you who don't know, so basically is action pressed is going to return true for every frame when the player has held down the input. Okay, so it's going to return true for every frame when if the player has keeping the button down. Okay, and is action just pressed, it runs only once. So basically if the player is let's say keeping the button down for 5 seconds, the is action just pressed is going to fire only once. And but whereas if the player is keeping the button down for 5 seconds, is action pressed function is going to run true for all those 5 seconds. So this is what we want, because we want the player to be moving as long as the button is pressed. So I'm going to select is action pressed, and from here let's select this action. So for now let's just print, and basically I'm going to print in the console, player needs to move left. Okay, and one more condition we have to check, so we are going to use elif input dot is action pressed, and for this one select the right, and let's print player needs to move right. And I can press Ctrl S since I'm using a keyboard, and if not, you can just go here in the file and click on the save button in order to save the script. All right, so now the script is saved and we have written our conditions. Let's go ahead and hit play. Now you can see our little window over here. All right, so now our game is launched, and let's from here you can see there is this small window which I can see. So if I try to press D, so it's saying player needs to move right. If I try to press A, it's now you can see it's saying player needs to move left. And same thing for my keyboard arrows. If I am pressing the keyboard arrows, it's triggering the correct responses. All right, perfect. So we have now created our first logic in our game, which is basically triggering the right actions when we are pressing onto our keyboard. So in the next part we will actually make our player move based on these inputs, and we will see how we can set up different configurations based on the input and the requirements. So see you in the next one.